Hey, gentlemen, I want you to do me a favor for a second. Think about your childhood. Do you ever remember being told you need to stop being so rough? Were you ever disciplined, not for doing something wrong, but for being, loud, really active, or even competitive? In other words, for being a boy. Yeah, it's same here. So I want us to talk about that today. So that's what we're going to be doing. And how to fix this mental problem in all of our heads. That sounds like something you want to hear? Well, let's get at it. Hey, I'm Rob Johnson. I want to welcome you to the Legacy Gentleman channel. On this channel, every day we talk about the values, skills, and works that be admired and desired 1,000 years from now. And when you have that, you serve. Hey, you're a legacy gentleman. Hey, gentlemen, I bet there's a lot of stuff in our lives that we feel, but we really don't know how to name, and we can't really put our finger on it. And this is the first of a 3-video series that I'm going to really title How They Unteach Masculinity and How We're going to Reclaim It. And today we'll be starting out with our boyhood things we were taught. So the first thing I want to start with is kind of these 10 childhood forces that built in us that kill masculinity. The first issue is the fatherlessness problem. See, a boy without a father grows up asking the question, what does it really mean to be a man? And like, what would a man do in this situation or that situation? And you really can't find the answer anyway, because people don't really know. So look, this is a tough one because, there's a lot of different reasons why you grow up without a father. If you're like me, my parents got divorced when I was young, but it wasn't young for them because they had been married for almost 7 years. Or other people, their parents were never married and they were never really there. And some people have this other thing where their dad is there, but he was abusive, he was neglectful, and you really just was like you didn't have a father there. So you need to navigate your situation and understand it, what's gonna work best for you. But really, for most of us, it's really to reconnect with your father, especially as an adult. And look, guys, when you reconnect, you have to understand that there is no perfect father except for God, and there is no perfect son except for Christ. And so that's really kind of the first step for a lot of us to do. So reconnecting with your father works because you really needs to mold your identity. And you meet your father, you see him, and you understand the life he's been through and kind of some of the thought processes that led to him and your mom not being together. You can learn from his good and from his bad. Sometimes they'll be honest about their mistakes. Sometimes they'll just blame it on the other person. When we become men and mature enough, we need to use wisdom to decipher that. What this does is still models manhood to you. Manhood you should do, manhood you shouldn't do. And when you do this, you'll end up with a stronger identity. You have more confidence in what you have done, what you can do, and where you want to go. It's also going to make a foundation for your spiritual grounding. See, God is the perfect model, and you can see your potential for good and bad in your father who doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and you can move forward in that. The number 2 problem related to the first one of motherlessness is the problem of over-mothering. See, look, my mom loved me, and I love her so deeply. But moms, they do mean well, but sometimes when you over-mother a boy, you raise him in a way that he's not prepared to be a man and all the demands that has of the world for me. So realizing that over-mothering can be the problem, what's the solution? And it's really to start accepting 100% responsibility on your own. The number 3 problem that men find It's the feminization of school system. Look, sit still, speak softly, no competition, no roughhousing. That ain't boys, and that surely ain't the world that men live in. But that is school. And when you break those rules at school, they put you in solitary confinement. They put labels on you as trouble, and they give you drugs to try and take that masculinity out of boys. What we need to do is understand that boys and girls are different, and they learn different, and we need to embrace and incorporate masculine learning. That's physical activity, that's risk, that's debate, that's leadership, and that's a mission-driven task. Pretty much the opposite of everything you'll find in school. So yeah, there's a lot of schoolwork and assignments and sit down and be quiet, but we as men need to find those tasks that we learned the other way. I learned a lot more about leadership and about determination and about resilience and about working hard till you see a result. Not from my schoolwork, but by playing football, by wrestling, by track. That's where I learned those skills. Everybody's not gonna be good at sports, but we need to find ways for men to do that. It's really funny to me because I've noticed that where I live now, a lot of guys, they did play sports, but not all of them. Most of them learned these skills by farming and by being part of those clubs that prepare you to be farmers. But they learn those same leadership skills. They learn those same active physical learning skills, mission-driven task skills by farming. Me growing up in Atlanta, not something I would have ever considered. But look, it's the same thing. The next problem we find is the shaming of natural aggression. Look, every time a boy acts bold, acts loud, or acts rough, they're told that that's toxic, and that's just a natural way of being. What we need to do is help our boys out by channeling their aggression somewhere. Like I mentioned before, martial arts, team sports, even competition in business or even in ministry. It can be, like I said, it can be any of these things that bring in this natural order of competition and reward for hard work. And this works because it shows everybody, especially men, that power under control isn't dangerous. In fact, it's what's known as discipline. The number 5 problem that we all saw in our childhood that really continues on today is that the media mocks men. When you look at sitcoms back when I was a kid, from The Simpsons to Married with Children to even Modern Family, you'll see that there's this idiot dad there. And the mom saves the day, holds everything together, and fixes all the men's problems. It sets a terrible example for men. And then when you look at social media, it is even worse. You see the guys who are shaming the women that they would sleep with for acting the way they act, and they have no sense that they're part of the cause of the problem. And then the guys who are actually talking about men should act a certain way and set a certain standard get all the hate from both sides. And what you end up thinking is that in general, men and masculinity are dumb. So look, how do you fix that? You know, you can't fix what other people are doing, but what you can fix is what you're watching and what you're letting your children take in. You need to watch stories about strength, about wisdom, and about God-fearing men. This number 6 thing makes me cringe every time I see it. And it's the problem of the participation trophy. It's rewarding kids for showing up, and it erases the value of winning for most of us. See, when I was a kid, because I sound old now, the number 1, number 2, and number 3 person got a ribbon, got a trophy, got a medal. That was pretty much it. That was in some events. You know, if you're on a team sport and one person gets the trophy, everybody else takes an L. Well, the number 7 problem is that there are no male mentors. See, boys need more than just their mother. You need a man to tell them that's not the way you should be acting, because I expect better of you, because you're going to be a better man than that. And the only way to fix this is to first seek out godly mentors. That's in church, that's at work, That's in the community. You need somebody who's godly and willing to be a mentor to you. The next problem is men have been taught emotional suppression, vice emotional discipline. See, boys are told to shut up about their emotions, that being taught how to channel it. See, boys, they're taught, shut up any emotions. See, boys are often taught to shut up any emotions instead of how to channel them. Or you're taught it's okay for you to let your emotions run wild and go all out and show emotions. It ain't. Not for a boy, not for a man. You need to learn how to have discipline over your emotions and then channel it into something positive, into something that actually solving a problem and not just making a bigger problem for everybody around. This is going to end up teaching you what the scriptures say about emotions. Yep, Jesus wept. David wept. But they moved on in truth and in strength and along with what God had called them to do. That is what we need to be teaching boys today and what a lot of us as men need to actually learn. The number 9 thing that we were taught as boys that we need to unlearn as men is the problem of no risk taking. Look, at some point, boys were not allowed to fall or to bleed or fail. So no wonder why we see guys who fear almost everything. They fear trying new stuff, they fear being wrong, they fear being criticized, they fear being talked about. So how do we fix that? We fix it by embracing controlled risk. Start a business, go to the gym, lead a group, do something new, something different, something that strains your ability. And you'll learn to grow in it. The number 10 thing, and one I think is very important, that there is no longer a rite of passage to grow from boy to man. Boys just grow older, but there's not really anything that shows that they're a man. You can look at finding a job, having a kid, leaving your parents' house, and those are, age-related things. Those are, location-related things, but there's no inner quality. There's no test, except for like the Jewish people have with bar mitzvahs, that the common man has that show that you have clearly transitioned from boyhood to manhood. So here's what I recommend all of us do, especially if we have boys. Create an intentional moment, tests and then blesses manhood in our boys. It can be something like a mentorship, a ceremony, a fasting challenge, and something that ends with public affirmation. Public within the family, public within the community, but something that says you were a boy, you completed this task, you completed this trial, you completed this something, and now you're a man and you will be treated like a man inside the family and by everybody else. First and foremost, being a man will be seen as an honor. You understand that your life has a purpose and that it'll initiate the boy owning adulthood. You know what those 10 things all lead to? It leads to men who apologize for existing, men who avoid confrontation like the plague, men whose wives run the family, and a feeling lost spiritually, sexually, and often financially. These men have quiet lives of passive frustration. And most men today are starving for direction, not because they're weak, but because they were not trained. They ended up being tamed. So men, let's agree to take these things to reclaim our masculinity. First, reconnect with God, your heavenly Father, because it all starts here. Your earthly dad, he might have failed you, but your heavenly Father will never. And then once you do that, you will have your identities in a solid foundation in the God who made you. Number 2 thing, train your body and your spirit, because masculinity, it's physical. And your body follows your mind and your spirit. That's why this works, guys. It'll fuel both of them, and you'll have confidence and consistency when you get that done. Number 3, find a mentor. Ask an older masculine man to call out your blind spots. Somebody who will do it with wisdom and someone who can also help you through it. You don't need to grow up guessing. You need to grow with guidance. And that's what a mentor will help you do. It will help you with accountability and maturity when you find someone to actually mentor you. Next, we need to embrace risk and pain. Basically, guys, take the hit and move forward anyway. Look, once you get some knocks and some failures under your belt, it stopped becoming something so fearful, especially when you learn from it. That'll build you with courage, that'll build you with some grit, that'll build some real masculinity. Next thing, you need to surround yourself with men who are on a mission. That's right, form the brotherhood. Compete, laugh, pray, build, but have some brothers around you. Because if you guys haven't realized it, the society we live in today encourages you to be isolated. And in isolation, there's weakness. But men build up each other. Build a brotherhood, build a legacy, get some men around you. That's going to teach you loyalty. You will see that there's absolute strength in numbers, and you will have multiple ideas on how to do stuff right. The next thing, guys, we need to relearn masculinity's language, which is strength, it's duty, it's protection, and it's vision. These aren't toxic words. They're actually biblical words. And these are words that we need to live our life under. And this language, it'll help shape your mindset. It'll build in communication and conviction with the people around you. Strength, duty, protection, and vision. Next thing, guys, this is going to be a jump start. I want you to take dominion. Start leading something. A Bible study, a workout crew, a business, your family and worship. But start leading something. And this will work because you weren't meant to follow forever. You're a man. You're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to lead in something. So take dominion over something today. Look, man, you were not born weak. You were born wild and wired for greatness. And somewhere along the way, somebody tried to beat that out of us. But guess what? You're a man, and your frame and your masculine identity can be rebuilt stronger than ever, every day. So here's your mission. Pick one childhood script that I mentioned and break it. Share it with their brother who needs it. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, go be legendary.